then also allow you an opportunity to ask us questions as well. So I am State Representative Cherrish Pryor, and we're actually in my district. This is District 94. Some of you are my constituents. Many of you are my constituents. So welcome to my constituents and those that are not my constituents. We appreciate you being here as well. I serve on the Elections Committee, Ways and Means, and then also serve on Utilities, Energy, and Technology. I'm also the Democrat Florida leader as well, and I just want to say I appreciate the fact that my constituents continue to vote me in office and to allow me to serve them. A couple of housekeeping issues before we get into everything. If you have to use the restrooms are all the way out front where you came in, those double doors on either side of those double doors right as you come in. The restrooms are out there. The other thing, I do want to thank Mary Clark for allowing us to be in this wonderful facility. Is a museum, so as you're walking out, please take time to look at all the artifacts that are out there. I also want to acknowledge some people that are here as well. We do have someone from Congressman Andre Carson's office who's here. So thank you for coming, representing Congressman. And we also have the commander for the Northwest District who is here. So Commander Lewis, he's sitting back there in the corner, but he does a great job, and I really do appreciate him being here with us as well. And I also need to let you all know that this is going to be live streamed. So we have Dana Black, who you're not live streaming, she's just recording it. So she's recording it. So eventually it will hit the media. Social media. And then we have Michael Jefferson, who is in the back, and Mr. Jefferson is live streaming this. So I just want you all to be aware of that. And we still have people who are coming in to join us. I also want to acknowledge our staff that we have here. Courtney Bell, who is press secretary for the House Democrats. Christian Garrett, who is also here, who is my assistant manager.
Howard Kissel in the back.
So we have some staff people who are here as well. We have literature at that table also, so if you did not have an opportunity to pick up the literature and the information stuff that is back there, please do so. Additionally, I think many of you signed in. If you did not sign in, please do so and add your email address. We will get you added to our newsletter so that as we get information or send out information, you will be able to get that information firsthand. So please sign in. And so with that, I will pass this over to Senator J.D. Ford to introduce himself.
Thank you, Representative Pryor. Good evening, everyone. I'm J.D. Ford. I represent District 29 in the State Senate. So that's the western side of Carmel, Zionsville, the town of Claremont, and the west side of Indianapolis. I was elected in 2019. I was reelected in 2022, and I serve our caucus as the minority whip. The committees that I serve on the Elections Committee, the Family and Children Services Committee, Utilities, Commerce and Technology, Military and the Veterans, Homeland Security and Transportation, Education, and Health and Provider Services. So, thank you. I don't know who I made mad to get all those committee assignments, but I will say that I enjoy serving on those committees because it allows me to see the legislation that's moving through those committees that eventually will make it to the Senate floor for a vote. And it kind of informs me of what's going on, and certainly I'm bringing your voices to those discussions. As Representative Pryor mentioned, I do want to quickly shout out again Hallie Kissel in the back. She serves as my legislative assistant, so if you call our office, you will get her. She also has Senator Randolph on her portfolio as well. So we cannot do the work without them. So just another shout out to our State House staff. Yes, and we serve as your kind of your pipe delegation at the State House. So we're honored to do that. I will stop there and just say thank you for showing up tonight. We look forward to a conversation and the questions that you all have. And I'll turn it over to Senator Greg Taylor.
Thank you. My name is Greg Taylor. I serve Senate District 33, which is the portions of Center, Washington, Wayne, and a majority of Pike Township. I've been in the Senate since 2008, and I am happy to have been a member of this delegation here in Marion County since 2008 and continue to serve in the capacity as a member of local government committee, judiciary, courts and criminal code, and the environmental committee. I am a practicing attorney here in Indianapolis, and I am originally from Marion, Indiana, home of the Marion Giants basketball team. 9 state championships, which is the most in the state. Anyway, but I do appreciate, I want to give a shout out to my colleague, Representative Pryor, for putting this together. I think we're in, we're in a very interesting time in this country, let alone in this city. But we feel like we should bring our discussion to you instead of you having to come to us. That's one of the things I appreciate about my colleagues that are sitting here to the left of me. Since I have served in the legislature, I've been able to work with these people to make sure that we bring some of these issues to you, because you can look on social media, you can look on any other publication that you might frequent, but the best way to get the correct answers and the accurate answers in for questions that we might not be able to answer today is directly from us. So thank you all for being here.
Thank you all for that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have each legislator kind of talk about some of the issues to bring you up to date on some of those pressing issues that are A, happening in the community, and then B, some of the things that also happened this session during the legislature. We're going to start with Senator Taylor, and then we'll go to Senator Ford.
Thank you, Representative Pryor. I'm going to start with a very big issue right now, which everyone is talking about, which is redistricting. I want to, first of all, start out with the basic premise so that everyone understands redistricting is not new to the state of Indiana. We redistrict every 10 years after after the centennial census. So you come up with the number of people that actually live in a certain geographic area. The law says you have to draw the districts within 3% of the same population. So, for example, Senator Taylor may represent 172,000 people. Senator Ford must represent 172,000 people, plus or minus 3%. That's the law. That's how we come up with districts. The same thing with our colleagues in the House of Representatives. They represent about half of the number of people that we represent in the Senate. Thus, they have 100 members. We have 50. And that is done every 10 years. What makes this redistricting strategy the most interesting is that we're doing it halfway through the 5 years before the next time we were scheduled to do it. And the only reason that I've heard, and my colleagues can speak if they've heard other things, there's 2 reasons. One is there's this ideology that across the country, Democrats have gerrymandered districts that have lowered the amount of Republicans that are represented. So, the president asked Texas to start this redistricting and do redistricting so they can redraw the districts to give, and they don't even hide away from it, to give more Republican seats to the Republicans in Congress. This is not, by the way, let me make sure I draw a line You've got local redistricting at the city council level. You have state redistricting, which is senators and state reps. And then you have congressional redistricting, which is the congressional seats. Representative Carson is a Congress. We have 9 congresspeople here in the state of Indiana. Currently, Republicans hold 7 of the 9 seats. Let me repeat that. Republicans currently hold 7 of 9 seats. The objective here is to make draw the districts in a manner that the Republicans will represent all 9 seats. Now, if you do simple math, they already represent somewhere around 81% it's 81% to the remaining 19% because we have 2. They want it all. Okay? So what the strategy is, and I want to be clear about this, the strategy is to eliminate the 2 Democrat seats. Well, let's talk about those 2 seats and where they are. One is in Northwest Indiana in Lake County. Okay? We all know Gary, Indiana, Lake County, Indiana. That district has been Democrat since, Cherrish, I want to say the 90s. Okay, well before the 90s. Let's go with the 80s just to be safe. Indianapolis, since I've moved here, has been held, the 7th district has been held by a Democrat. In order to break that up, in order to take that district, they would have to take portions of Indianapolis and have our constituents vote somebody. For example, let's say you live on the east side of Indianapolis. Let's say you live off of Midhofer, Arlington, whatever. Your district for Congress could go from, let's say, Arlington all the way to Newcastle. Listen to what I'm saying to you, because it's important to understand. The districts is just east of the 7th district where Andre Carson represents. And please, if they're okay, goes all the way to the border of Indiana and Ohio. So those people on the east side would be represented by somebody who could live in Newcastle, Indiana, all the way to Indianapolis. Let's take the south side or the center township south. Those people could be represented by somebody who lives as far south as Monroe County. That's how you would do it. And then we got the west side, those of us here today. Your representative could live all the way in Terre Haute. Could. We all know what that means. That means they have to break up communities of color. Lake County and Marion County are the 2 largest communities of color in the state of Indiana. We should all be concerned about that because they're actually disregarding what protections were given under the Voting Rights Act and the 14th Amendment to the Constitution for equal representation and pursuit of life, liberty, and all the other things that this country is supposed to give to us. So they're not even, this is bold. They're not even arguing that that's not true. They will say, yes, we have to break up Lake County and Marion County in order to achieve this objective. I am telling you right now that if they are successful in redistricting, it is going to be upon us, and I'm talking to everybody in this room, to turn out the vote to the point where they will have mud on their face. You okay? I'm just telling you. And I'm going to do something here, and if my colleagues want to do the same, I'm going to take responsibility for my district. And I'm going to say that if I can't help get at least another 50% higher turnout in my district, then I haven't done my job. If I can't, and we have to work together, because I'm telling you, this is the first step of many steps. And as my grandfather and grandmother used to tell me as a little boy, when they're done with you, they're going to go after somebody else. If anybody in this room thinks they're safe, just keep living. Because if they can do this, they can take everything that we have and everything we've done. And so that's the big issue today. And I think we're answering questions. Okay. And then I want to talk about one more thing. Just at the end of the day, I am very concerned about our utility costs in Marion County. And for people who may not know this, the government created this monopoly that allows us to only choose one electric utility company to give to all of us. It's not like you can go shop for electricity somewhere else. Now you could do solar. We all know what they've done, taking away those solar incentives. But I would say 80 to 90% of you here have AES. Well, the check and balance that we're supposed to have is through the Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, the IURC. And they are supposed to represent and say, listen, you can't do certain things with your utility rates. Do understand, and if anybody tells you otherwise, tell them to check the facts. AES is not losing money. Did you hear me? The Regulatory Commission gives them ability to make a certain profit for their shareholders. So they're not losing money. They're not coming to you saying, hey, we're going to go under, we can't provide your services. They say we want to make more money. That is a problem when we know what's going on in this economy. I would rather them come to us and say, we need to build out infrastructure that's old, outdated, and we need your help to do it. Now, for the time period right now, we're going to absorb those costs. But down the line, if things get better, economy gets better, we're going to come back to you and ask you for a rate increase. That, to me, is being a community partner. But to ask us, they want to go, and I want to give you the number, they want to go from 9.15% profit to 10.75% profit. Okay? Now, I want you to go to your employer and ask for a raise, but ain't nothing else changed. You know, you're going to get the same electricity and everything else. So we are going to fight that every step of the way. There's 3 commissioners that are going to be appointed to the IURC. We're watching that very closely. But I just want you guys to know that the legislators here at this table are watching that issue as well. Thank you.
Okay. Is it on? Okay. So I'll just kind of pick up right where Senator Taylor left off. I'm a hard no on redistricting. So my constituents have made that quite clear to me. Thank you for calling. Thank you for emailing. I would also suggest to you to continue to call the governor's office, that number 317-232-4567, Speaker's office, and let them know that, hey, even if the governor calls a special session, you don't have to go and do it. So keep those phone calls up. We know that it's working. We know that your phone calls and our emails are working because the Vice President of the United States had to come here twice. And now, and then also after being invited out to Washington, D.C., to the principal's office to get scolded. And now President Trump is individually calling our colleagues, putting the pressure on them. So we know that what you're doing is working. So if you've got 2 minutes, you're waiting in the car for your next appointment, you're waiting in the drive-thru, whatever the case may be, make those phone calls. It is working. Also, please follow our social media. we're going to put the red alerts out there for you, right? So if a special session is called, we're going to need you to help us down there at the State House. We need you to show up and make your voices heard. You can testify before whatever committee these bills go to. If you need help on registering to testify, you can call any of our offices and ask how to do that. But the point there is that we do need you to show up. 2021, I was our caucus appointee, to the redistricting, and we had colleagues literally stand on the House and Senate floor and say, "These are the best maps ever. These are perfect maps. You weren't going to sue us because these are going to hold up in court." And so now here we are, as Senator Taylor mentioned, midway through the decade. The next census is 2030, and the next time we're going to do maps is 2031. So here we are trying to take up this issue. Just by a show of hands, does anybody think this is a good idea? That we should redistrict, that we should change our congressional maps? Okay, all right. The crowd has spoken. Thank you for that. I was with the neighborhood association a couple nights ago and asked the same question, and not a single person raised their hand. So it really just gives us the armor that we need to go to the State House to fight for you. So thank you for doing that. But as Senator Taylor mentioned, they want a complete Republican delegation to Washington, D.C. And so it goes against the old saying of taxation without representation. Now, they're going to take our tax money, but we're not going to have anybody in Congress to fight for us. And I think that's wrong, and we need to talk about that as we move forward. And some people have said, "Senator Ford, why can't y'all do what Texas do and just walk out?" And I think this is a very important point, because in Texas, the House of Representatives, the Democrats there, they could break a quorum, right? In our legislature, we are a super minority. And I don't call it a super minority because it's not super, it's excessive. They are in an excessive minority. We are an excessive majority for them. And so what that means is that there are 40 Republicans to 10 Senate Democrats and 70-30 over in the House. So we still have a little bit of seats to get in order to break that quorum. So we're not going to be able to do that. But our secret weapon is the people that are sitting out here today. And so we really want to just lean in on that. Do you want to go on my list? Okay. So I did bring some handouts for you. So my first one is just a basic Indiana government resource guide. So I encourage you to pick that up if you want to get a hold of the State Information Center, you want to know how to file your taxes online, just things of that nature. That's my Indiana government resource. I know Representative Pryor is going to talk about a little about SC1, which is the bill that really, the property tax relief bill, but really what I'm calling is a attack on public education in our public municipalities. But I do have a handout that breaks down exactly what's going to happen to our school corporation. So just for example, here in Pike Township, Pike is projected to receive $500,000 less in revenue over the next 3 years than it would have before the passage of SCA 1. So I have a handout to break that down for you. I also have just a quick handout on some resources. So if you know a federal worker that is currently on hard times right now, there's some resources for what happens during the shutdown, so I encourage you to pick that up. We do have some information about, what is going to happen here in Indiana about the Big Beautiful Bill, or as I call it, the Big Betrayal Bill. Do know that a lot of stuff is going to happen after the 2026 midterm elections. Now, y'all, we're not dumb. They did that on purpose, right? Our people are going to be hurting. But they specifically moved those deadlines after the midterm elections. But I encourage you to pick that up and take a look at it because there's a lot of good information on there. And then finally, my last one is just what I'm calling my good bills, bad bills. This is just my opinion. This is from my chair as to how I see it. You may disagree with me, you may agree with me, but there's some information on here that I would like for you to pick up and take a look at. So those are on the back table. Just other quick stuff. So, anybody been on the newly opened B&O Trail on the west side? Okay, awesome. All right, good deal. If you haven't had a chance to go over there and walk it, do get a chance to do that because that's truly a gem. It's connecting Hendricks County to our side of town, to downtown. So it's going to be a good thing for us. On Saturday, I'm hosting basically what I'm calling a navigating insurance event this Saturday from 10 to 12 at the Pike Township Government Center. So I'll have myself and just some experts about, just insurance. There's a lot of talk right now about insurance going on, and so I wanted to pull together an event for people in our district, but also it's welcome to anybody. So you're welcome to come. It's a free event. There'll be breakfast there while supplies last. But I do want to say that there's a lot of, I have a master's degree, and there are sometimes I have to stop and kind of reread something to understand what it means. So I just wanted to share that with you. That's Saturday, 10:25 from 10 to noon at the Pike Township Government Center. Senator Taylor mentioned about utility cost. All three of us testified at the field hearing at New Augusta. Was it New Augusta? Yeah. New Augusta, making our case, to the OUCC, the IURC, Citizens Action Coalition was there, and we just wanted to let them know that we reject AES in going for their rate case. This summer, I've served on the Roads and Transportation Committee. I also serve on our Utilities Committee, which is very interesting to me because you would think that serving on the Utilities Committee in the summertime, where we have a lot more time to look at some of the stuff that's going on, that we would have at least some report to report back and to report out. Guess what? We have no recommendations given. And so, to me, that's really a travesty because that was an opportunity for us to look at the high utility cost, and we certainly did not do that. I also serve on the AI task force, which we know AI is such a huge topic in our state and across the country. And the report coming out of that committee was that we should create a standing committee because AI is just here to stay. And it's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I also serve on the Child Fatality Review Committee, and I will tell you this is one of those committees where it's really hard to hear this information, but it's very important information because what we do is we look at the child fatalities in our state, and we try to assess what we can do and what steps we can take to make sure that that doesn't happen in the future. One of the statistics that I want you all to be aware of is that a drowning is a leading cause of death between 1 to 4-year-olds in our state. And I actually had a bill dealing with retention ponds because some of our kids have wandered into those retention ponds, and unfortunately, some survived, some did not. So I do think it's a topic that we should continue to look at. In our health committee, we had 2 wins. One, my postpartum depression bill got the stamp of approval from our health committee, so I'm looking to potentially file that next session when we go back, which is January the 5th. And our colleague, Senator Mark Spencer from Gary, he and I authored a letter to talk about water safety curriculum. You don't have to participate if you don't want to, but by show of hands, does anybody know how to swim? Okay. Yeah. So essentially, what we do is we teach our kids, the old sayings of stop, drop, and roll. Does everybody remember that? Okay. What's that for? Fight, right? Run, fight, hide.
Tornado.
No. School safety or school shooting drills.
Wow.
So, well, we didn't really deal with that, unfortunately, yes. But what I will say is that for water curriculum, it's flip, float, and follow. So if you are kind of, in the water, you flip over on your back, you take a deep breath, because a lot of us, expel a lot of energy, and then sometimes that makes us sink. Well, if you do that, you can kind of float, and then follow the current. hopefully it'll take you back to the banks of the water. So it's really what would happen if you fell into a body of water. And we heard testimony before our committee of people who are good swimmers that weren't able to make it out of those currents. So just keep that in mind. And then I do want to point your attention to data centers. So I recently attended the Pike Township Resident Association meeting, and there is a potential data center going in at the property at American Tower, just south of 86th Street, those big giant towers. So potentially one there. They're just talking about it. It's not finalized, but I do want us to keep in mind that potentially could go there. And that the Hoosier Environmental Council has put together a resource guide on questions that communities can ask about electricity, water usage, things of that nature. So you can find that on their website, or actually just posted it on my social media, so you can get it there. I said hello and thanked the gentleman for his service because he is a veteran. But any other veterans out there? Okay, thank you for your service. I want to let you know that on the second Tuesday of every month at Rowdebush, Indiana Legal Services partners with the Military Assistance Project for some legal assistance. Yeah. So do take a look at that if you do need some legal help, because they are there to help. And I did have a chance to go over and see what they do, and the line was down the hallway for folks that really need a lot of help. So I encourage you to take a look at that. And then just one last thing I'll say is that I've been appointed as a board member for the Independent Colleges of Indiana, as well as the Midwestern Legislative Conference for Education and Workforce Committee. So I'm excited to be serving in those roles and serving you all. And just, again, follow us on our social media. And if you haven't had a chance to sign up for our e-newsletters, do that, because that's also another opportunity for us to pump some information out to all of you. So again, thank you for letting me come and share that information, and look forward to your questions.
Thank you all, and these are really beneficial to me as well, because I didn't know anything about the swimming. So I learned something when I come to, when we do the town halls as well. I'm going to cover several issues. First, I'm going to talk about the redistricting. There is a handout in the back that we put together that talks about the redistricting. So if you did not get that, please go back to the back and pick that up. I, like my colleagues, am adamantly opposed to redistricting. Serving on elections in 2020 or 2021, we traveled the state and we held meetings across the state of Indiana to get the feedback from Hoosiers about what they wanted in the maps. Unfortunately, a lot of what folks said, what people wanted, were not included in the maps. So what we have right now are maps that are already gerrymandered. And in order for the Republicans to get all of the 9 seats that we currently have, the maps are going to have to be gerrymandered even more than what they are. The concern that we should all have with that is, right now in Marion County, we have one legislator, a congressperson, whose sole purpose for going to Congress is to make sure that people in Indianapolis and Marion County are taken care of. We know that he brings back millions of dollars to our community because he is squarely focused on Marion County. If we have a congressional member that represents us that does not live in Marion County, that has urban or suburban and rural communities, where is that focus going to go? Is it going to go to focus on bringing tax dollars, our tax dollars, back to Marion County? Or is it going to be focused on those dollars going to other communities? And I'm not saying that those communities don't deserve funds. They absolutely do. But it's important to make sure that we have someone as big as Marion County that whose sole purpose is on Marion County. And that is why we have to really fight to make sure that we don't have redistricting. The other thing that I think is important to keep in mind is when we talked about redistricting, I remember after the 2008 elections, the minority leader at the time, who was a Republican because Democrats were in control, he stood up and he stated basically that because Republicans got more votes for the governors, then Republicans should have control of the legislature because they were in the minority, and so it should be proportional. If the governor got 60% of the vote, then 60% of the seats should be Republican. I tend to agree with that, particularly now. And so Democrats are voting, approximately 40% of the voters are Democrats. We should have 40% of the congressional seats as well. That is proportional, and that to me is fair. It should also be like that in the legislature with the senators and also with us House members as well. Because so if we're looking at things proportionally, then it should be proportionally all down the line. There are several states that have already moved forward with maps. Texas has moved forward with their maps, redistricting, and so has North Carolina as well, and so has Missouri. And I'm thankful to my colleagues in the Senate because they are slow walking or pushing back, moving these maps through so quickly in the state of Indiana. Obviously because the lieutenant governor has been here twice, and so he couldn't get the job done, and so the president is now calling in, trying to force legislators to agree to the redistricting. And that will be totally devastating to the country. The fact that we are doing something that has never been done before, simply for control and power. And anytime there is a desperation for control and power, is not good. I believe by playing fair and playing by the rules that are established, not changing the rules midway to get an outcome that I want. If the rules are there and we all know the rules, then we should all play by those same rules each and every time. And that is not happening right now, and that is a major concern that I have. And there's also a proposed map out front, so when you came in, hopefully you were able to see the proposed map that has been floating around. There's no guarantee that that's going to be the final map, but that is to give you an idea of what Senator Taylor was saying, how those maps might look. So that's redistricting. With AES, you all still have an opportunity to make a difference with that. We should all, and I'll be honest with you, I was more than mad when I heard that AES wanted another rate increase. And the reason why I was so mad, and quite frankly, I felt somewhat betrayed because AES just got a rate increase a couple of years ago. And their rates have not been fully implemented. So before the full implementation of their rate increase from last year, the approval last year, they're asking for more money. And I believe that they're asking for more money because there is a potential for AES Indiana to be sold to a private equity company. And the better I can make the company look to someone to buy, the more money that I can get out of that sale. And so they're not looking at us as customers. they're not looking at us as, quite frankly, ratepayers. They're looking at us as dollar signs. People that has money, and they want to extract as much money as possible from us so that they'll look better for the sale or to the whatever private equity company it is. But we still have an opportunity to make phone calls to the IURC, to make phone calls to the governor. Senator Taylor mentioned there are 3 seats available on the commission right now. There are 3 seats open. The governor has to appoint 2 Republicans and 1 Democrat. 2 Republicans and 2 Republicans, 1 Democrat. Call the governor's office and tell the governor to appoint people that are going to be friendly to the ratepayers and not a partner with utility companies. Because the last thing we need is someone that is there's 3 more people on the IURC that's going to rubber stamp whatever these companies want. There is an agreement that the big companies agreed to. I think Lilly, Walmart, a couple of the other big users of utilities, they agreed in the city of Indianapolis. I'm disappointed that the city of Indianapolis was a part of the proposed settlement as well. They have a proposed settlement that is less than what AES wanted. But I agree with the Office of Utility Consumer Counselor. One, that their rate request should just be denied outright. It should just be denied. It shouldn't be a lowering of what they wanted. They should just say, no, you just got a rate increase. You have not done a good job servicing the people as is. You don't deserve a rate increase anywhere. But they didn't just want a rate increase for infrastructure to improve their systems. They also wanted to increase their profits. Why would you ask ratepayers to give you more money for a profit when you have not provided good service to me? When you go to a restaurant, if you get good service, you don't give the person 25% of a tip if they're not giving you good service. The better the service is, the more you're going to give in a tip. The more you're willing to pay for good service. AES has not shown that they are providing us good service and to constitute, one, more money anywhere, and certainly not more money to their profit line. So their settlement does give them more profit, is down to $91 million, which is still too much money. That $91 million could go a long way to helping people. There are a lot of people who are unable to afford to pay their utility bill as is. If you live in an older home and you don't have any weatherization in your home, you're already paying $300, $400, $500 a month in the wintertime. That's why in the state of Indiana, you can't cut off people's heat during the wintertime because people will freeze because the bills are too high if you meet certain requirements. So that's that for those two. The other thing, Senate Bill 1. This past session, one of the big topics that we were going to do was look at property taxes. Property taxes has been a major concern for a lot of people. We have people who are unable to pay their property taxes, and those folks whose homes are paid for, sometimes their homes end up in tax sale because they just cannot afford to pay their property taxes. This was supposed to be a session where we were going to take a look at the property tax situation and provide some relief to ratepayers. That's not exactly how things turned out. Now, you will be able to get a $300 credit on your property tax bill depending on the assessed value of your home. If you are an elderly person, you're over 65, and you have the over 65 deduction, you'll get an additional $150. So if you're an older person with the over 65 deduction, you can get up to a $450 credit. The challenge is there is so many other cuts in the bill that local units of governments are going to significantly have to cut their services. Either they're going to have to cut their services, or they're going to have to find out ways to make up for those cuts. And one thing that is in the bill is that it would allow local units of governments to increase their local option income tax. So what does that mean? That means that you may get that $300 credit, but you may pay more for your local option income tax. And so have you really benefited? You haven't, because it's just a tax shift. So that's really what the bill is. It's not saving taxpayers, it's just shifting dollars from one place to the property tax owners. Additionally, and that's just local government. But when you look at your schools, and Senator Ford has this really good piece here that talks about education and the impact that it's going to have on education. And so for the schools, either the schools are going to have to make significant cuts, or they're going to have to come back to you and ask you for a referendum. And referendum goes on your property tax bill. That is going to, in the end, increase your property tax liability again, meaning that's another shift. So the bill is saying it's good if you're a business person. You can get you will be able to get a $2 million, I think up to $2 million, $2 million business person property tax exemption. So if you're a business person, it works out good for you, but to the average person, not so well. The other thing that I want to mention also is Medicaid and the concern that we have for Medicaid. There are potentially, just under what we did at the state of Indiana, potentially 200,000 Hoosiers that will lose their Medicaid benefits. And that is very concerning, because this is the only way that folks are able to pay for their insurance. Some of the things that the bill did is, right now, you only have to check do your eligibility for your Medicaid once a year. This is going to be quarterly now with this particular bill. The problem with going to quarterly eligibility is that if the state loses your documentation, then you can lose your eligibility even though that you're qualified. It is a big burden on people the elderly people who qualify for Medicaid. Now they're going to have to figure out this whole new system and constantly resubmit their paperwork every 4 months. So those are additional people that can lose their Medicaid. And so those are the things that we're really concerned about, and that, we tried to fight against. And we're going to continue to fight against that as well. One bill that Senator Taylor works on, and I would like for him to talk about it, I was a co-author of it in the Senate, in the House, is the evictions bill, dealing with people who have rent, and they paid their rent, but they're still on their record. So he's worked on that for years, and we finally got something passed, and I want to give him credit for that and let him talk about it, because there was a lot of stuff that happened, bad stuff that happened in the House. And so there are a couple of kernels of good stuff, and that's one of the kernels of good stuff that I want him to talk about.
Thank you, Representative Pryor. She gave me too much credit. In order for a bill to pass, it has to pass the Senate and the House. So if I sent it to somebody who couldn't carry it in the House, it wouldn't have passed. So she deserves just as much credit as I do. But what the bill did is, most of you have heard of criminal expungement here in the state of Indiana, right? Something that we passed, I believe it was in 2016 or before, but that allows people to go back, and if you don't get in trouble after a certain period of time, you can have that expunged from your record. Well, one of the things that really concerned us here in the state of Indiana is that before, as a renter, you always, in most cases, you have to go through an application process. So when they do a background check, a credit report comes up and it shows if you've had any evictions on your record. So that would inhibit people, that would, in a lot of cases, cause people not to rent to you. Well, we felt, as the legislature, that if you pay your, whatever you owe to that person, let's say you get evicted in Pike Township Small Claims Court, and you go to Wayne Township and you want to rent a house, or anywhere in Marion County, and that eviction is on your record, when you go pay off whatever you owe to the old landlord, you pay it to the court can automatically expunge that from your record. So listen to what I'm telling you. There's some obligation on your part. You have to pay the debt or whatever judgment you got against you. And here's the other thing. In a lot of those cases, if you talk to people, most of the times the landlord doesn't go after a money judgment. They just get you out and then they move on. Okay? But if you go back and you petition the court and you say, I've met all the obligations I'm supposed to meet, then the court can automatically expunge that from your record. And I think that is a tremendous thing, and it hopefully will help some people here in the state and in the Marion County that we represent. Thank you, Chair.
No problem. Thank you, Senator Taylor. I just also want to mention, we also have a handout on Medicaid on the back table, so you can get that and read up on it. And then also have information about AES as well, and how to contact the IURC also for the redistricting. The numbers for the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans is on the back of that page, so you can use this to make phone calls. And now I think we can open it up for questions that people have. We've done our presentation and share some information with you all, and I will come out there, and if you have a question, you want to stand there, and I'll hold the mic and let you all ask your questions.
Somebody's got to have a question.
I'll go ahead and start it off.
Yeah.
Okay. Dana Black on the east side of Indianapolis. I appreciate all the hard work that you guys are doing, and I appreciate that you are willing to come into the community and talk to people, because I know some of our representatives don't know how to talk to their constituents, so thank you. I don't know if you guys have discussed this yet, but yesterday FSSA received notice that they are to hold on SNAP benefits for November. I know this is new. It just happened yesterday, but do you guys have any insight that you can share with folks about what we would need to do if we are receiving SNAP benefits and that November payment is not made?
I was going to ask, that has to do with the federal shutdown, am I correct?
Right. Again, Kathy Souchet Downey up here on behalf of Congressman Carson. Thank you to our state legislators for hosting this event. They wanted to, because shutdown questions may come up, invite someone from the office. Congressman Carson is in D.C., although votes are not being held because Speaker Johnson has canceled for, I believe, the third week in a row, votes in the U.S. House of Representatives. But he is in D.C. along with a Democratic delegation trying to do the work for the people. So really the only update that I have, folks, is that it is in fact related to the shutdown. And as we know, and the handouts are really great explaining what's going on, the government is currently shut down because Congress did not pass a budget for this fiscal year, the fiscal year 2026. For many years, we've seen continuing resolutions being introduced. The House of Representatives passed a bill that was very partisan. Republicans did not confer with House Democrats on this bill. They then sent it to the Senate, just like happens in the Indiana State Legislature. The Senate and the House both have to pass a bill. Senate Republicans have and continue to hold votes on the same bill without negotiating with Senate Democrats. That's why the government is shut down. Democrats in the House of Representatives and in the Senate are trying to fight for subsidies to continue under the ACA, the American Affordable, thank you. I don't know why the name is escaping me. The ACA, and that's what they're asking Republicans to negotiate on. Again, to the point of bipartisanship, the need for conversation between all parties, that's not happening. That's why our government is shut down. And that those decisions of what is being funded and what is not being funded is being made by the current administration. Now, in reality, nothing should be funded if the government is shut down. Unless there are things that have already been passed. For example, and I saw, or Congressman Carson has a frequently asked questions on his website, and it talks about, for example, Veterans Affairs. An appropriations bill, a budgeting bill, was passed related to Veterans Affairs services. That's why that particular agency continues and is able to legally provide funding. But if appropriations bills, budgeting bills have not been passed for that certain part of the government, there is no money available. President Trump and the Republican majority in both chambers continue to dangle the finding of money to support their priorities, again, without discussion with Democrats. So to get to the point, and I'm sorry, I just wanted to give a little bit of background on what is happening. We heard, along with the rest of our community and the rest of the nation, that SNAP funds will not be released for November, as of yesterday announced. It is the state that can respond. Again, we are in the minority, have not been forthright in these conversations. So I invite you, if you have additional questions related to SNAP benefits, as we are learning information, we would be happy to share it with you. Congressman Carson's telephone number is 317-283-6516. And we have caseworkers who manage the various agencies, including SNAP benefits. So I'm sorry, I don't have specifics simply because we've not been provided them.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that update. I just really wanted to quickly just add to that is that WTHR had an article about this yesterday, and they included the letter that was sent, so you can read that letter. And essentially, basically what it says is that until further notice, approximately 42 million individuals across our nation will not have their SNAP benefits. Think about that. Right before Thanksgiving, our folks will be able to use their benefits. And I also just want to quickly say that other states, I've heard other state governors are preparing for this and moving and shifting funds to ensure that their people are going to still receive food, not only for SNAP, but also for WIC. So we're out of session right now, and so we can't do anything at this moment, but the governor can. And so you have his telephone number. I encourage you to call and make your voices heard on this particular issue.
Hi, my name is Sherry. I'm in this district. I want to thank you guys for coming. I'm so glad to be here. Concerning what you were just talking about, the SNAP benefits, I think that there may be some drawback of not funding the SNAP benefits for everybody that has been on it or has applied, but I do know of a person that said that she applied a couple of days ago and hers are being expedited. So the SNAP benefits do continue, but not for everybody. Now on that note, the same way that I would say the health care, you say is cut back. I know people who are still using their health care benefits. Now, wait a minute. What I want to say is this. I do agree about continuing with health care, especially for those who are vulnerable and those who need it. However, just like the housing and the SNAP, and there's an abuse of the services that are being provided. So we as taxpayers will continue to fund benefits to people who actually can do some things on their own. Now, just like in my own household, if I continue to take care of you, you'll never learn to do it yourself. And you'll think I'm wrong if I tell you, go get a job. So at this point, to pull back, we all here have to learn how to survive. And so do they. We've been on Section 8 for years and years, and the taxpayers are funded. When does that stop? How far does that go? Health care, we have people who go get teeth cleaning, and you have more beautiful teeth. You don't even really shouldn't really qualify. That should be for people who are needy, the elderly, the impoverished, the lower income families. But I say that when it comes to insurance, what I've been told, what I've heard, what I've been listening to is that as a Democrat, that the Democratic Party, and maybe not here in Indiana, but in general, overall, there's this talk of the health care, 1.5 trillion in the budget to open up the government would be for illegal aliens. And so there are a lot of them here. If there's a lot of them here, and so that's the budget, then why is that? What has been the prior budget before that happened?
So thank you for your statement, ma'am. But I would tell you there are a lot of individuals who are citizens of the United States. During the legislature, we had people of Medicaid recipients who came to the State House with their children who were disabled, who could potentially lose their services. So I think the talking points that some are saying, they're saying, well, Democrats want people who are not citizens to receive health care. There are a lot of citizens that are going to lose their Medicaid health care because there are qualifications. You have to meet the qualifications. If you don't meet the qualifications, you're not going to get Medicaid. You're not going to get Medicare. So you have to meet the requirements in order to get these services. Those are good talking points to scare people. They're great talking points to scare people. But when you look at the reality, now I would ask, there's a website, factcheck.com. And this is for anybody. When you hear stuff, if it sounds too good to be true, if it sounds way off, way to the left, way to the right, go to factcheck.com. It's nonpartisan, independent, and it gives you, it's not my talking points. It's not Republican talking points. It's not Fox News talking points. It's just total facts. And there are people that came to the legislature who are American citizens, who are Hoosiers, that are going to lose their insurance under the provisions that we have. 200,000 people here in Indiana going to lose their health care insurance. And SNAP the same thing. The other thing that I will say is this: if a person shows at the hospital and they are in need, do we just not serve them? Do we not? Do we not serve them? Do we let people catch diseases or get measles, mumps, stuff that we have gotten rid of for years and caused a crisis in this country simply because we don't want someone to have health care. So I just ask you to do more research versus just listening and talking to us. Just do more research.
I just want Google's like so great if you want to just get facts. In Indiana, to be eligible for Medicaid, you have to be pregnant and you can't make more than $3,000 a month. You have to be a child. Children are eligible. I know, hopefully nobody's against that, right? You have to be an adult that is unable to work, and that's determined by your status as a worker. And let me give you some eligibility requirements after you can't work. If you're one person, if you make more than $1,800 a month, if you divide that by 4, you can do the math. If you make less than $500 a week, you're eligible. If there's 2 of you, you have to make less than $2,400, which is $600 a week, to be eligible. And then people aged and disabled. And I want everybody to understand that Medicaid is health care. Medicaid is health care. You can't choose who you were born to. Is it my fault that I have diabetes? It could be worse if I didn't take care of it, but that was hereditary. Is it my fault that my eyes don't see well? No, that happens over time, depending on how you use your eyes. There are things about the human body that we ought to be careful when we start talking about people who can't do this or shouldn't be able to do that. I just want to bring that up. The last piece, you can't qualify for Medicaid unless you're a U.S. citizen. The health care you receive when you go to a hospital, if you're a non-citizen and you're injured, is indigent care. That is not Medicaid. Hospitals have to provide a certain percentage of indigent care in order to receive Medicaid benefits. Look it up. And you can't turn people away. And that wasn't a Democrat idea. That was a Republican, Ronald Reagan, who signed that bill.
Amen. All right.
Good afternoon. My question kind of piggyback off the small claims court issue. I know a couple years ago you all may be familiar that hospitals are doing forum shopping with the medical bills. And so has there been any thought for doing the same thing with medical bills that have been done with apartment complexes?
That's a great question. So we had, Senator Fatty Cadora had a bill about medical debt. And some of you may not know this, but we had a summer study committee on medical debt this year. And in that summer study committee, we talked about what the cost of medical debt is doing to our communities, how it's harming not only the people who have the medical debt, but also the people who, don't believe they can go get medical care if they have medical debt, right? So, hey, I can't go to this hospital because I owe them $1,000. So you skip and you go to another hospital. You're not changing the detriment to the community because now you're just moving that to somewhere else. So we talked about forum shopping, and in most cases, and this is, you cannot choose your jurisdiction. Now, medical debt, because some courts have determined will accept them, then they can't go to that jurisdiction. But we can only account for what we know. And here's the other thing, and I know you're a practicing attorney, but I didn't know this until last year. Marion County Superior Court has a small claims court. So everybody's been going down there, including evictions. So we are going to look at changing that. You shouldn't be taking somebody over to the Justice Center and they can't find a parking space and they live in Washington Township where you should have gone to Washington Township small claims and evict them anyway. So we're looking at that issue, but that's a great question. Both of those issues have come up.
Okay, I told a friend of mine I'd ask a question for her while I was here. And her question was, if you've been charged 15 years for a patio that doesn't exist, is there any way you can get reimbursed for the property taxes already paid? And then her other question is, why is property taxes collected on homes that have been paid for many years ago?
So, property taxes are paid, and a lot of people want to get rid of property taxes. But property taxes help pay for services. So, even though the home may be paid for, we still have to pay for schools, we still have to pay for police, we still have to pay for all of the local fire, for the parks. So there are still services that individuals use, even though their house has been paid for. So that's why we continue to have people continue to pay property taxes. It's because you're continuing to receive services. Just because your house is paid for doesn't mean the services that you get cease to exist. And I didn't hear the first part of the question that you...
The first part of the question was basically an assessor's question about a patio being assessed a tax if it hasn't been there for 15 years or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So if there's a patio that has been assessed and it's not there, they need to contact the assessor's office. And the assessor's office will give them reimbursement. Now, I don't think that they're going to go back 15 years, but I think that they'll at least go back 3 years to reimburse that person. But they need to contact the county assessor's office, and they'll come out and reassess that property and make an adjustment to not only give them a reimbursement, but also make an adjustment to their assessed value as well.
My question is in reference to Medicaid. And what are we going to do? I'm really concerned about people that really don't know about this and won't know about it until after the election. So I'm really concerned about what's going to happen to them after the election. So what are we going to do? Are we going to have a campaign? What are we going to do to inform people that are on Medicaid that this is really going to impact them after the fact? Yeah. I love to, and it ain't, I know.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And certainly this is top of mind for many, many people. And just again, continue to give a little bit of history about the Medicaid crisis that we're currently in, is that a couple years ago, we had somebody who made an improper forecast of our Medicaid dollars. That forecast was $1 billion in terms of a mistake. Let me say that again, $1 billion. And so because of that, we've been trying to play catch up, which is why you've seen, some Medicaid wait lists, which is why you've seen, child care wait lists, which is why you hear problems with the pathways programs. Certainly, we will be doing our best to get the message out there. But that's why it's important for you all to come to these town halls and listen to that, so that you can go back to your church groups, your friend groups, your family members, and really get them to understand that we're on a cliff right now. I will also share with you that the governor has signed an executive order basically saying that you cannot advertise in terms of any sort of Medicaid. And so they want you to not know this, right? That you're eligible. And so, you have to, again, talk about this with people because your circles and our circles go far and wide, So, and also, we did Senate Bill 2, this is on my bad bills list. But don't forget, we made requirements the state must do checks, which is going to force the state to hire more staff, and it's going to actually divert millions from actual care, right? What I mean by checks, and I'll give you a quick example. When I first got elected, I was appointed to the Medicaid Advisory Committee, and at that time, we were still requiring work requirements. Now, subsequent to that, the court struck that down and said, we don't need to do that. And the reason for that was because I asked one simple question at that committee, and then the question was, who does the checks? Who is checking to make sure that people are, logging their community service hours or volunteering or whatever the case may be? And the answer to that was no one. And so then my question is, well, why do we make people jump through all these hoops just so that way they can have health care? But we're continuing to do that. And you saw that with Senate Bill 2 that came through the legislature this past general session. But again, it allows FSA to terminate HIP entirely if federal rules change or funding drops below 90%, putting coverage at risk for thousands, and removes the hospital-based presumptive eligibility to lengthen care and access for those in need. So I think, again, to your point, is that we're asking all of you to be partners with us, and go out there and share this information, make a copy of this, share it to your people, and let them know. That was for just really advertising.
Senator, can you repeat the question so we can hear what she's asking?
Yeah, she was asking about in terms of the advertising. Where did that come from? That was an executive order through Governor Braun. Yeah. It was so Braun did an executive order, and then it was codified with Senate Bill 2.
Okay, so is that saying nobody in the state can advertise? Is that saying just the government can advertise?
Just the government. And before we get off Medicaid, just in case, you do realize we all pay for Medicaid, right? Anybody out here who has private insurance, right? You pay for Medicaid. You just don't know it. Medicaid rates are typically 40% of that of private carriers. The reason why our rates are higher is because the procedure costs the same for the hospital, but Medicaid only reimburses at a certain rate. So when people talk to me about this, people on Medicaid thing, I kind of get cringe because technically we all on Medicaid.
All right.
Hello, pretty much thank you for the opportunity. I do want to say I really appreciate you all living a life of service. My wife and I both served in the military, as well as the gentleman that was sitting in front of me, and I know that can be a life that's difficult. And it's a life about really sharing, and it's a life about sacrifice. So thank you for what you do is the first thing I want to say. The second thing I want to say is that for those that are out here that are military buffs or just like to read history, what you're seeing in the United States try to take hold is not new. And so if you go back to Germany, Hitler, if you go back to World War, basically the Great World Wars, and you study what was being done in those governments prior to those wars and people being suppressed, you probably find real similar things going on here in the United States right now. And so I just want to say that, but I do have a two-part question, and it's about redistricting. And so my first question is in the event that we are not able to stop redistricting, is there a contingency plan? And then my second question is, as time goes on, the pendulum always swings. Do we have a plan when they swing back towards the Democratic way?
Hello. Yes. I don't know, I can't speak for anybody. This is the third time that question has come up about a contingency plan. Yeah, here's my contingency plan. This is me. I'm not speaking for anybody else up here, but this is on us, okay? And as I told you, I will go down in a fight over this. I'm going to read some numbers to you. In Marion County alone, we have 512,000 registered voters. In Allen County, we have 223,000 registered voters. In Lake County, we have 315,000 registered voters. I want to read to you the numbers that the congressional seats that the Republicans won, the numbers. Jefferson Shreve won with 201,000 votes. His opponent had 99,000. Victoria Sparks had 203,293 votes. Her opponent had 136,000. Mark Messler had 219,000 votes. His opponent had 95,000 votes. Aaron Houchin had 222,000 votes. Her opponent had 113. If you break that down and you say, remember the district I was talking about going out to Newcastle, Jefferson Shreve's district, and you were to take a quarter, listen to me, a quarter of the vote, 25%, that's another 100,000 votes, and move it out to where Jefferson Shreve was, you beat them.
Yes, sir. Tell them again.
Let me give you another example. If you take the northern 1/4 of Marion County and you add that to the number of votes that Victoria Sparks got, you beat her. And I'm telling you right now, if we don't make them pay, if they redistrict and we don't make them pay by everybody in this room getting somebody to go to the poll with them to vote. This is Obama-era numbers that we need to hit in Marion County. We can throw mud right back in their face. Now, these are numbers, I'm going to tell y'all right now, y'all going to hear this again, because these are the numbers I'm going to tell to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle when they come up with this gerrymandering thing. Be careful what you do. What the young people say, FAFO? That's my plan. Is my job in Senate District 33 is to get 68% of my registered voters in Senate District 33 to go out and vote. I don't care if to pick you up, pay for you to go. I want you to go vote. And I will do my damnedest to get to that number.
And Senator, if I may, there's an organization called the Indiana Democratic African American Caucus where I am the vice president, and that is our goal, is to increase voter turnout. And so it takes volunteers. It takes us to help us to get the message out. So if you are interested in becoming engaged and getting engaged in a plan to increase voter turnout, increase voter education, please see me or email me at dana@indianasown.com. I'm on all the socials and I'm easy to find. But no, they do not have to be black to join. They do not have to be black, but our caucus is specifically designed to get more black people engaged in the civic process. Obviously, there are other organizations, the county party, blah, 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 but ours is specifically about black folk and getting us engaged. And no, you don't have to be black to get involved. We love a good ally and a good accomplice. Next question.
When it's not illegal.
Quickly, just wanted to add to what Senator Taylor mentioned. Get to your question. I just wanted to first, acknowledge your first comment about the military, right? And I'm really troubled with what I see in terms of, inviting our top generals to Washington, D.C. I specifically blocked that time off on my calendar because I knew that if the Secretary of the War and the President were inviting members of our military, top senior officials of our military, to Washington, there's got to be a reason for that. But I will share with you that I was really dismayed at what I saw. I mean, I don't know how those men and women sat there stone cold faced as they did, mainly because they didn't want to show emotion one way or the other, knowing that they were getting a berating from a Fox News commentator. And the President of the United States also trying to be funny with them. This is not funny. This is life or death. And so I was really sad to see that. And more importantly, I was sad to see troops being deployed on our city streets across the nation. How un-American is that? And so I would just want to say to you that in the way that I sit here and see it is that we all need to do more. We all need to talk to our neighbors, and I know that sometimes having these conversations is difficult, but we have to talk to our neighbors about voting. I talk with young folks all the time, and they say, why bother? I don't care. Well, of course, if you think that way, then of course your vote isn't going to care or matter, right? But if we all think that our vote matters, and we go in there and do our duty that people fought and died for in our country, yourself included, thank you for doing that. If we all think like that, then we can change the needle in our state, right? And I think voting is one of the greatest equalizers that we have in our country, because when you step into that ballot box, you're as equal as to the person next to you, because you have a vote, they have a vote. And so I just want to say that no one's going to ride on that white horse and say this. It's got to take all of us to do it. So thank you for letting me share that with you.
Absolutely. It's your audience.
Can I just, I'm sorry, to respond really quickly. Redistricting, the one thing I think that we're going to have to do is look at filing a lawsuit. If those maps pass, that is something that has happened in Texas. That is something that we're going to have to do in Indiana as well. So we're going to have to try to hold them accountable in the judiciary. The other thing, too, I think is important to keep in mind is being on election, and Senator Ford can attest to this as well, there are a lot of voter suppression bills that come through the legislature. So we're going to have to make sure that we're diligent in making sure that people continue to check their voter registration so that they're not kicked off the voter rolls. Because that is one of the ways that, unfortunately, my Republican colleagues, that's one of the things that they do. They kick people off the voter rolls so that there are not as many people voting. They know that if less people vote, they have a better chance of winning and keeping these seats. And that's why it's so important for people to go out and vote, not just register to vote, but actually go out and vote. And unfortunately, I wish I could say that things are going to get better. Every day I turn on the news, things are not getting better. Things are getting worse. And I think that, unfortunately, for people, it is the pain that we're feeling that is going to get a lot of people out to the polls and vote. And that's really sad, because every year we need to be voting, because things are being done little by little, as you stated, that's being chipped away from us, and we don't see it until stuff blows up to where it is right now. So I'm sorry for...
Never be sorry. Hello, everybody. So, a couple of things. One, how do we support, and I'm not sure how this has affected Indianapolis or Indiana in general, all the 300 or 400 so thousand women who have lost their jobs, and 300,000 of those are African American women. First of all, I want to make this statement. I absolutely believe that God is in control. I do not believe God is doing this for whatever reason He's allowing it, but I do not believe this is God. God is not cruel. He doesn't need to use cruelty. God is concerned about humanity. And most of what we're seeing is a disservice against humanity. Whether you are male, female, old, young, child, black, white, brown, purple, orange, green, God cares about people, and we should care about people, right? So that's number one, or number two. How do we support our fellow citizens who've lost jobs? I've had 2 people that I've helped purchase homes call me and say, Tuesday, I think I'm going to lose my house. I lost my job. Or they cut my child care. I can't go to work. Who's going to watch my baby? So how do we support these people? What programs are out there? I did look at the list of some things, but I want to hear that from you. So that's a question. My second question is 7 million people. How many in Indianapolis, Indiana? I'm not sure it came together. How do we monopolize on that energy? For me, this is not about Democrat or Republican. I really could care less. I really could care less. If you care about what I care about, which is people being treated right, and people having services available for them, people paying taxes, people, what they're doing, God chooses kings. He does not choose presidents. People chose the president. So when you're out talking to people, just use that. God chooses kings, biblically. He does not choose presidents. People put that man in office. So what do we do to come together? I love the fact there are black people in here, brown people, white people. I love it. This is kingdom. This is the work that needs to be done. That's why I asked my sister, can white people come to the African American recruitment thing? So that's what I want. So that's my question. How do we support those people? What are we going to do in Indianapolis to monopolize on what we saw downtown in front of the State House? And how do we start earlier? Last thing, young people. Young people don't care about what we care about. That's why there are no young people in here. They don't care about it. So when we're talking to them, we have to talk to them about what they care about. So I think some of what needs to happen, and I'll say Democratic Party right now, because, amen. But what are our talking points? Can we get something that are talking points that we know how to talk to the people, how to recruit the people, how to bring them along? Because, we're getting stuff from 50 million different directions. And God said that if you are saying the same thing about the same thing, you can do anything. Now, you don't have to be a believer. I really care less about that. But the concept is true. If we're all saying the same thing about the same thing, it's a consistent message, we can do anything and be unified on that. So, yes, that's my contact information right there. Thank you.
Well, okay, so you asked 3 questions. Let me answer one about services. Well, because I think my colleagues have been, ma'am, I don't know where these ladies live, but all 3 of us have sat up here today alone. I helped a young lady whose house caught on fire, and she was laid off from her job at the same time. And I helped her get her AES bill paid, and they forgave portions of the bill. The resources that are available depends on what the needs are, okay? And I say that to you because first, go to your city. Here's the steps for everybody. Please write this down. Go to your city council.
Can we publish these somewhere?
Excuse me?
Can we publish these steps somewhere so people can know outside of this room?
Sure,
okay.
Sure. I can put that. Go to your city council. There's a thing called Who's My Representative. Type in your address. It'll start with your city council. It'll tell you who your trustee is. The trustee is there for assistance. That is their job. Everything from food, utilities, and everything. Then, if it's a city issue, something the city wants you to pay for, city council. If it's a state issue, if you owe something to the Internal Revenue Service, if you have some taxes that you owe, go to your state senator or state rep. You get 2 shots at the pill with that. Then, if it's federal, Congressman Carson's office, I know he's my boy, but I have never called his office and they haven't been able to help me. From getting a passport expedited to making sure that somebody's Medicare benefits actually get paid to them. That's the steps.
A couple of things. The other place that people can go for resources is 211, I think it is. That's a great place, one stop for everybody. Again, reach out to legislators. The other thing is, I think, as I kind of alluded to before, we're headed in a direction where the community is going to be more important than it's ever been in a long time. Because even the systems and organizations that we have dealt with and have been used to, they're probably going to see cuts to the resources that they have because people are losing their jobs. And so they're not going to have as much money to make donations to these organizations. So we as a community are really going to have to put our arms around our neighbors and our family members more than ever, just to make sure that we're able to get them over this crisis situation that we're in. I don't know that any of us have all the answers or the right answers. What I ask is that people give ideas so that we can help anybody that comes to us and have an issue or a problem. You wanted a publication, I know.
Don't forget the trustee's office is a good place to go. The township trustees.
Yeah, we mentioned that Senator Ford. Well, I'll let Senator Ford talk about his resources that he has in the back. But you mentioned something. I appreciate you mentioning that because we do need to make sure that we're publishing our resource guides over again. I've sent them out to my mailing list, but that is something that I think that we're going to have to make sure that it's front and center all the time now because of the great need. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, thanks for your question. Just to piggyback on what Representative Pryor said, I do have some resources back there. So the food assistance map basically it provides you a link to different food pantries and banks, as well as to locate free meals, where to go for some free sliding fee or low-cost clinics in Marion County. Representative Pryor mentioned about Indiana 211. I also want to say we should also tell you about Indiana 988, which is if you're in a mental health crisis, please call that number. And the other thing I will just say is that we have to go back to the society where we care about our neighbors. If we have an elderly neighbor that's living on our block, I know that sometimes we just put our blinders on and we just live our life and we just do what we got to do, and I know there's a lot going on. But would it kill us to go down and knock on the door and say, hey, how are you doing? What can I do for you? Bring him a bag of groceries. I think that's how we get through this. And just being in community with each other like tonight, I think this is a good start to that. And sharing resources. I will be the first to admit to you, I am not the smartest person in the room. I don't have all the answers, but I know that when we come together and we work together, I know that we can get it done.
Hi. For all those that are left here and for the ones that don't spend as much time on the internet as I do, unfortunately, I just wanted to share this bit because I just learned it a couple of days ago. And what I learned was with all with the government shutdown and all the federal workers that have been furloughed or fired, that I found out a couple days ago that ICE is still working and getting paid, and they have up to a $50,000 sign-on bonus.
Yes.
And I don't know where any of you have worked. I've never worked anywhere that even had a $20,000 sign-on bonus. So I can't even imagine how this is working and how this looks for the whole situation that we're all living through right now, which is horrendous in my opinion. I just wanted to share that bit of information.
And you can go one further. We just gave Argentina $40 billion.
Say it again for the people in the back.
And because of the tariffs, China's not buying our soybeans. That's really, really interesting. Did I see another hand over here? I did. Okay.
I just have a quick question on redistricting. So do you guys know what the deadline is by which the governor has to call a special session in order to vote on these maps in order for them to be effective in 2026? Like, what is that deadline?
And to my knowledge, there is no deadline. And so, he has the longest runway possible. We were told that we were potentially going to go back into session in September, but they didn't have the votes to do that. So they kicked it to November. There's some speculation that we all have to go back to the General Assembly on November the 18th It's the start of the 2026 session called Org Day. So it's where all 150 of us are there. And it's a ceremonial day to start the session. Each leader of each caucus gets up and makes a speech about what their caucus intends to have priorities for. So perhaps that might be the day, since we'll all be there. But I will share you this. I would have to imagine that our county clerks are sweating bullets because I know that they're already planning for the primary. A lot of candidates have to file in February, so they've got to get everything all ready and set to go. But each day that goes by and he's not done that puts it more pressure on those local folks. So that's what I currently know.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind too with the redistricting is there is a residency requirement as well. You have to have lived in your location, I think, a year before for state legislature. But if you're going to file, I think there is some requirements as well, aren't there? Okay, well, not for
yes,
so.
there are residency requirements for.
I know it's for legislators. I thought it was for Congress.
For federal, no, because you can actually run for a different congressional district than
you
you live
don't
in.
have to live in but you do. There are filing deadlines though, so you still have to make the filing deadlines as well. So they'll have to do whatever they want to do for the redistricting to meet those filing deadlines for the congressional races.
I'm curious more or less about AES and why Indianapolis does not accept taking back over.
I would say I am all for the city of Indianapolis taking back AES. When I testified at the hearing that was at New Augusta School, I testified that I think that AES needs to go back to the hands of Indianapolis. And that's still my position as well.
I also just wanted to share, to that end, I had a bill, not this legislative session, but the last session, to change the composition of the IURC to add elected people to that body from you all. And so we had some requirements to make sure that they're not taking any money from utilities, things of that nature. But I wanted to put kind of a consumer perspective on the IURC. Unfortunately, that bill did not get a hearing. And I just want to quickly say that when we file these bills, help us. Call and email and say that you want this bill to get a hearing, not just us, but where it goes. So the committee chairman, you have to call them and put pressure on them to hear our bills. Because when we go and say to the chairman, hey, why didn't you give our bill a hearing? You know what they tell us? Well, nobody called. Nobody was interested. So we didn't hear it. So that's where we need all of you to help us to get those bills in the hearing. Because we're filing really good stuff. It's just that they're not giving it a hearing.
Okay, I'd like to know how do I go about getting my city county council person to come to some of our neighborhood meetings or try to get back with us? I know you mentioned about getting in contact with them, but when we try to get in contact with ours, it's like a no show,
I would say, I don't know if you've reached out to whoever your counselor and spoken with that person directly.
We tried.
Maybe can you talk to us maybe after so we can get a little bit more information about that? Thank you.
This is a little last question. Yeah, okay.
Mine is not really a question because most people have answered my questions. Mine is more of a statement. I think one of our issues is that we go out and vote for the president and everything, but what people don't understand is where you live at, where those rules are made at. Federal is the whole country, but whatever state you live in, that is the most important thing. And another thing, we must get our young people out and vote I'm kind of up in age, and a lot of us that are here, so we must get our young people out and vote and help them understand about voting for our laws in our state are important. That's the only statement, that's my statement right there.
Yeah, thank you for that statement. I couldn't agree more. I know that watching the presidential elections is fun, but it's your local elections that have a more greater impact, I argue, on your life, right? We have, a couple of years ago, there was some talk about doing away with township government. And that conversation isn't new. That happened a long time ago. There was a report about that called the Kern and Shepherd Report. We actually just did another report by the Indiana Township Association. Basically, they did a really good job making the case of why we need townships and township trustees. But I guarantee you there are still conversations happening in the General Assembly where we get rid of township government. So we have got to pay attention to that, because those township trustees are working really hard to provide that assistance that we had already talked about earlier. I also want to mention to you all that the Indiana Senate, as well as the House of Representatives, we have a PAGE program. This is any 6th grader to any 12th grader can come shadow us for a day. Please encourage your students to do this. If you have a friend who's a legislator, they can shadow that person. It doesn't have to be us. I always am willing to take those young students, and I always try to take them out into the hallway and explain to them what the process is, trying to plant those seeds, right? It's the old saying that you got to plant the seeds for the oak trees that you may never see. That's another job for us as legislators. Of course, we're there to fight for all of you, but we're also there to make sure that those students can see themselves in their state government. So thank you for that question. I always try to engage with students. I never say that they are the future. I always tell them that they are the here and now, and we need them to be involved.
And we also have a internship program as well. So if you know college students that is a junior or senior or a recent college graduate, recent college graduate would be per someone that's been out of college for a year. They can also come and be an intern with us. And oftentimes our interns do get offered positions to be legislative assistants, and some of them go on to be press secretaries as well. And I think Christian was an intern, so we have 2 of our interns who are now staffers. So all of the 3 people who are staff people were prior interns, and they are paid. Say that again. They are paid positions. And so they get the experience. Some of them, they work for us for a couple of years, and I know our great staff is going to be leaving us in a couple of years to go on to do bigger and brighter things. And I just want to make sure that they have a wonderful opportunity working for us so that they can have a wonderful career when they leave. I know that they won't stay. I like for them to stay, but I want them to do, we can't pay them what they're worth, quite frankly. But thank you for that as well. And thank you all for being here. Hopefully it was
Thank you so much. It's an honor to serve you.